Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, now topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. To catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice, listed in the description below. I'm your host, GM, and overseer of Podcast of Five Rings, Obsidian, joined by the wall that will not fall, Tetsuo.
Hello.
We got the Dark Fortune Duelist Meta.
What's up?
He's going to be racking up them points.
Oh, you know it.
And the resident,
bit him.
the resident wild card, Mao.
What is up?
Who's in delayed mode again because his internet's all weird.
Womp womp.
So, anyways, we were kind of talking about how everybody's week's been going, so what's been going on with everybody else. I kind of bogarted that discussion because I'm a selfish asshole.
Well, we all know that.
I was gonna say
This is understood. I mean, when you're the host of a podcast, you kind of have to be, right?
No. You're just selfish. It's been
it's probably that
week
Korean heritage.
Yeah, right. It's week for me has been really quick. Last couple of days, I will get in at like early in the morning, and then I'll look over and it's like it's fucking 11 o'clock already. What? I was just here. I just started. I just put my shit on the wall.
I just put my hat on the rack and my coat and sat down at my desk.
I just sat down.
What about you guys?
I was gonna say this week really has gone by pretty quickly. I mean, to be honest, work has dragged on. Like I feel like I'm just sitting there forever, but somehow it's already Thursday, and I'm like, holy crap! It feels like it's still Tuesday.
My work days have been super fast. It just feels like the week is dragging.
Yeah.
What about you, Mal?
It's been fine. I've been
Playing that Divinity 2.
Yep. Sometimes I've played a little bit of an old Yu-Gi-Oh game.
Oh yeah.
You know, I like to play Yu-Gi-Oh from time to time. It's one of the tag games from like 13, maybe. I can't remember.
Oh, Mal.
Yeah.
Oh, Mal.
Fun times.
Well, we're going to get right into our topics here because this first one could be a
doozy?
a doozy for us, a right old regular doozy. So why don't you start us off, Meta, because this is your topic.
Oh, yes, it is. So for those of you who are L5R fans, if you're keeping up with the news, you know what just dropped. I would say yesterday as of this recording.
Yep.
Yeah. New L5R RPG rules from Fantasy Flight Games. It is the beta, which means that not everything is there. Things are probably and likely going to change. In some places, hopefully, and other places, maybe not so much.
No, it'll be
12
the good
weeks.
stuff that changes. That's how it'll go.
We noticed that people were still dying, so we decided to nerf that altogether.
No lethality. Nope.
No one dies. We all have
players will be
foam
able to enjoy
katana.
long, relative, happy lives.
We all fought with Nerf
Death
katana.
MP takes too much
Nerf
agency away
swords.
from the players.
Nerf arrows, nerf swords.
Nerf spells. I'm the Kami of foam.
Anywho, about
God.
the actual game.
Yeah, so I've been Jones to talk about this.
Yeah.
I've already led through the game. I've already created
Yeah.
a character utilizing the
Yeah.
system.
I have not.
Not had a chance to play it, obviously.
Yes.
But
We're going to do that.
Yes.
Not this weekend, but next weekend. So kind of a late monthly module because we wanted to wait on this beta, which is our Halloween themed.
that's our Halloween themed one.
Because none of us are gonna know what the hell we're doing because it's gonna be a horror show.
It mostly feels like Fate meets L5R to me.
Yeah,
That's what
I
it really
agree.
feels like.
I absolutely agree with that.
They
It's,
they kept the role keep, which a lot of people weren't sure if they would.
But it's
I
different.
was-
Use Fate Die now, so or not
Right.
Fate Die. I
They
call
said-
them Fate Die. Narrative
Yeah,
dice.
you roll keep, but it's fate die.
It's
so.
narrative die.
Yeah,
is
so-
what we wanna call it.
So your rings
Okay,
are
exactly.
your rings are D6s and your skill dice are D12s, and they work much in the same way. You we'll roll a number of ring dice equal to your rank in the ring. So if I'm an air 3 and I want to do something through the power of air, I will roll 3 of those dice. And if I want to convince someone to do something, I'll roll my skill that lets me do that. A number of d12s equal to that dice. And
I
that's
got
pretty
a
much
question here because I haven't had a chance actually. That's maybe what you guys know. If you're utilizing a skill with a certain ring, do you roll both types of die and the amount of them?
You mean if you're making a skill roll, you would roll the amount of skill dice equal to your rank in the skill, and the amount of ring dice equal to your rank in the ring.
And
But
then
you still
get
use
to
the two
keep
different types of die.
Yeah, then you get to keep a number of dice equal to your ring of either of those 2 dice.
Oh my god. Okay,
Yeah,
so that is
skill are usually
that's what I
better.
thought it was. Just
This
need to
ring are
make sure
gonna
it
be
was
more
the 2
consistent.
die. I wasn't sure if like one was going to supersede the other.
And there are still explosions. There's an explosion symbol, so if you roll an explosion, you get to roll another
Counts
die
as
of that
a
type.
success and roll again.
I think you actually have higher odds of explosions too, because
Yeah,
for
you
the
do.
12-sided die, you
Yeah.
got the 12-sided die. It's 2 sides on it, which means it's
I
one.
think it's
in
more
6
than that. I
rolls.
think it's
It's
3.
Yeah, it's this.
that
I know
I think so.
the trait one is a 1 in maybe 2 and 6. No, I can't even remember.
Yeah, I don't have it pulled up.
I can pull it up real fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got it open.
But it's definitely is the roll keep system.
It's a 1 in 6 for both.
Oh,
Okay, so
that's
it's 2
fine
and
then.
1.
2 and 1.
So you have more odds of exploding.
The symbol
And you
kind of
don't even
looks
have to
like the
keep
flare symbol.
explosion.
You do not have to keep the explosion.
Yeah.
That's the difference, because you could roll the explosion and
get
get a bad result, but you do not have to keep it.
Yeah. So I
Because
don't.
it's what?
Oh, go ahead, Mal. Sorry.
Blank, success, opportunity, strife are all the symbols.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say maybe we should go through kind of what's similar, and then go into some of the newer mechanics. Maybe.
Similar
So, the
to
dice-
L5R.
So
Yeah.
the narrative dice, let's just get this over with. The narrative dice essentially have 4 potential results. Some can be mixed and matched, but there's 4 results at the end of the day. You have successes, you have opportunities, you have explosions, and you have strife. Success is pretty
4 point.
simple. It's just about meeting the TN for whatever you need. If as long as you meet or exceed, you've succeeded. Generally, if you have more successes than the TN, you get bonuses to whatever that result might be. More damage, more information, whatever.
If you played a White Wolf game, you understand how this works.
Yeah. Explosions are counted both as a success, and you get to roll another die. If you get another explosion or another success, congratulations. You get to keep them and either roll again for explosion, or if you get a strife, which is pretty much the only bad thing, you can opt then to decide to not keep it. It's actually probably one of the most liberating die rolls you can have in the game. Then you have opportunities, which are generally bonuses that are added on to the successes that you can possibly get. If you have an opportunity, it usually generally goes on the rule of like either 1 opportunity, 2 opportunity, or 1 opportunity plus, which essentially means that if you have a 1 opportunity, as long as you have 1 opportunity die roll, you get to do something extra. If you have 2, you can meet that requirement, and then an opportunity plus just means it keeps adding on for every extra opportunity that goes in with those successes. Strife is the one that gets a little bit more complicated and goes with a whole new set of rules. But to keep it simple, it essentially adds towards your composure. And as soon as you break your composure, you will end up going into what's called an outburst.
But as mental hit points.
Yeah, it's essentially mental hit points.
Yep.
And
It's the keeping of your on.
Yep. So that's pretty much the die rules for the game now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which
So-
I think I kind of feel like I need to go right into Outburst to explain what that is.
Well,
for
we can get
anybody
into
who's
that
not
in
aware.
differences if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
let's
just
say
go
what's-
through what's the same.
Yeah, let's say what's similar first, just so people have kind of like a base to kind
Basis
of
base.
work around. So, I mean, you still got advantages and disadvantages. So those are still in the game. They work a little bit differently. They're no longer point per point how you get them. You just get 2 of each at character creation. Then you have opportunities to get more as you get like higher honor, or if you have low glory,
At
or
character
so on and so
creation, you
forth.
get 2 of each, but then you also get 1 additional of one or the other.
There you go.
So you have 5 total.
There's still skill ranks are still the same. They simply just add on to how many die you're rolling, but you'll just use the skill die for them. The rings are still there. It's still the 5 rings as we know them to be. They still function the same way as they did like in 4th ed, and I'm assuming earlier editions as well.
Honor, glory, status.
Yeah,
Honor,
those are
glory,
still
status
there.
is still there.
You still have techniques,
they
even
still-
though they're
they
kind of
s-
different.
Yep. The honor glory stats, by the way, are still based on a essentially 100 skill, but instead of saying now that you have like 4 ranks and 3 points in it, you just say 44, which equivalents to
Yeah, they
have
just
a
point the
rank and
decimal.
4 points in it.
It's much easier, I feel like, having it in like the rank 0 to 100 as opposed to 1 to 10 with 1 decimal point.
The actually more interesting to note on that though is they do expand. They kind of like minimize things down. Like if you're a 40, or if like you say you're a 50 to 55, it might mean just these things. It doesn't mean that you potentially have to be a 4.5 to be this.
Oh
It
yeah,
means
you
that
don't
you're
like
in that
take
range.
penalties based on like what, like or like
Yeah.
doing this action for your honor rank is won't matter whenever you perform a certain like. Well, actually, no.
I was more talking about like it's if you've got like a category, like if anywhere between 50 to 60, you could be any one of these status positions.
Oh.
So but honor and
They also though they will grant disadvantage.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's one of the
depending on where you
differences.
are on the scale.
Yep. If you are high up, you'll generally get advantages. If you're below down, you will get disadvantages for both types. So being dishonorable actually is pretty mean.
Yeah. They still have the 20 questions.
Yep,
Hate
they
20
still-
20 questions still there.
Actually, 20 questions are pretty integral to building your character because some of those
I
20
love
questions
how they
will
work
give
it
you bonuses to it'll either teach you a new skill. You'll generally get a choice. Either you believe
Oh, that's cool.
you'll generally get a choice of either 1 or 2. Generally 1 gives some different bonus, and then 2 gives a different bonus. And depending on it'll also depend on like how you kind of perceive things, or et cetera, et cetera.
I hope they have
relationship with
more in the
people.
final game.
I actually kind of like that the 20 questions is far more integral to like the character creation itself.
Like more options
Yeah,
within the 20
I don't
questions.
think it really needs it, to be honest, for the 20
I-
questions.
I kind of do though because the way it applies some of them, like for instance, like one of them is it'll talk about like you can either you really do believe in everything your clan does, or you don't fully mesh well with your clan. But the one that's like you fully don't mesh well with your clan is just like you take this very specific skill, even though your character might never take that,
Yeah.
which kind of goes against the whole narrative focus I feel like the game is trying to put on. So
Well, but did it? I guess maybe it was just with the crab, because when I built it, crab had an option between which specific skill they wanted to take.
that might have been Crab, but like Crane
Yeah.
get Commerce, Phoenix get Tactics. These are all
Okay.
skills that they normally would not have.
Yeah, in that case, it was crab had a choice. Okay.
Yeah. So it was there's definitely like the 20 questions are still there. They still do their thing. The techniques, as you mentioned earlier, Obs, are still there. They have been reduced though. You have 6 ranks, which they've gone up. The ranks are still there. But the ranks have also been changed as well. Rank 1 of your school gives you a very specific school technique. Rank 6 of your school gives you a very specific school technique. Ranks essentially 2 through 5, however, they give you essentially techniques that are effectively kata or other things, which, by the way,
Well, even 1 does that.
even
Yeah,
one
Yeah, you
does
get to
that,
choose a
technically.
kata, I believe, for most
Yeah.
of the Vushi school.
Well,
Well,
you have to
some
meet,
of
you have to
them-
meet specific requirements for ones. You have to like there's well, I'll get into that when we get there, but it's
Not necessarily like the technique at rank 1 because it's what's on their table.
I think the Shiba one is also at rank 2.
Yeah. If your school gives it to you at rank 1,
That's
you
not-
just get
no,
it.
what-
You don't have to qualify for it.
what I was saying is that you actually have to meet prerequisites. You have to meet like a checklist to
Oh,
go
you have
to
to
the
rank
next
up.
technique.
Oh
Which is
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That is very different. So
Yeah,
But you
we'll get on that.
still buy it sort of like piecemeal
yeah.
to rank up.
You'll see some of the advantages to go back into the advantages disadvantages real fast. You will see some familiar disadvantages. You will see some familiar advantages. But there are also new ones.
Yeah. Also, you do still choose a family, and
Yes, you still choose family. You still choose
that give
school.
bonuses. And,
Yes,
Yeah, they
do.
still get bonuses. I think you get a ring and a skill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Generally, whenever you choose your class, you get 2 ring, or family gives you a ring and 2 skills. Class generally gives you a choice of 4 to 5 skills.
Clan gives you a ring, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Clan, I think, gives you a ring and a. Does it give you a skill as well? I think it does.
Probably
I
does.
Clan. Yes.
I think yes, it gives you, because clan gives you culture. So.
Yep.
The skills. Oh yeah, I already went over the skills. So I think, if you guys can think of anything else that I might have missed, but I think that's generally.
I think that's generally the same stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of big picture stuff is still kind of the same.
Yeah,
it's more
when
how
we
it
start getting
works.
into the nitty gritty. Yeah, the mechanical side of things.
Yep.
I mean, we may as well just go right into this one.
Get into the differences.
Big thing I'm just gonna start off with right now is how skills work, and generally how rings and skills work. It is no longer like, oh, I use courtesy and that's awareness and that's how it's always gonna be. You have social skills. They will mingle with any one of the rings. So you might use courtesy, but you could do courtesy earth, courtesy air, courtesy fire, so on.
They call that
and so
approaches,
forth.
right?
And this is something I kind of like, and I kind
I
of do this.
actually like this.
And I mean, and I kind of did this anyways when I ran old L5R. I mean, sometimes you roll Kenjutsu intelligence to do stuff.
Well,
sometimes you roll perception agility to do stuff.
Some skills in like craft does not do with it. So like it the crafting. So like they sort of had that in 4E, but almost not.
Yeah, it's like 4E did make mention that you could sometimes switch them around, but it didn't give you tons of like examples as opposed to this one.
When it doesn't, it's all up to the DM basically.
Yeah. The thing is, I think people are going to still try to find ways to generally do it in the way that's best. So if I have like a high water, I might always try to like adapt this piece of art, my artisan skill, instead of always trying to create
sometimes
new art if I have a low fire.
Well, it still tells you how this approach works.
Yeah.
Like I guess just because I've been looking at crafting and systems, like you can't create using a certain thing is always this ring.
Has to be fire.
Yeah, like you can't use void. Voids almost always detect supernatural stuff,
which is kind of funny actually.
Yeah, because in your martial skills, void would be under sacrifice.
Yeah. The upside to this, obviously, is as we just all mentioned, is it gives you a lot of different approaches to a same skill, and it means that you never suffer because you might focus on one ring over the other.
Which is pretty.
It just means that you have different approaches. Yeah, I really
it's a way. It's kind of like
The problem is that it gives you an ass load of options that you have to go through and look at, because it's like, oh, I have courtesy. Well, now I have to multiply that by 5 because there's 5 courtesy options.
Though I don't think there are as many skills.
No, there's about 4 or 5.
Depends on if you get into the sub skills.
But there's like 5.
They give you the option to introduce sub skills.
Overall, I think there's about 25 because there's about 5 categories.
Yeah,
and there's about 5 skills per category.
It's like 20 to 25 skills.
Yeah, it's 20 to 5.
24.
There you go. Just count it up. So 24 skills altogether, but each approach to them will have different ways on how you approach them. It will take some time to memorize all of them. That's the only downside.
Yeah, it's going to take...
being like, I always know Courtier is utilized with this skill. It's just like, no, if you do this approach, is it this kind? Is it this kind?
As a GM... until you memorize the little chart thing, kind of. And I made myself for when we run this. I just made on a spreadsheet a chart that kind of just has the keywords on there. It's going to kind of... you're going to have to like kind of consult it and go, he's trying to do this. How is this?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to
What rings am I going to call that this is kind of in?
I mean, there's a lot that's the same. I mean, like a lot of the skills are the same, and it kind of just... I feel like some of the skills, like, you're always going to use it with this ring for the
skills are. The rings are actually very different in some ways.
Well, right, but I mean, like, in general, you're probably... I mean, like...
skills, whatever. Right. Skills are like... Yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory what skill you're going to use in any given situation. It's learning which ring it's going to...
But that's what I mean. That there's some of the skills you will more often than not use only certain rings with. You have the option to use all the rings, but there are some skills where you're probably more likely going to use one or two.
I don't know. Like I thought the same thing too, but when I was reading through the descriptions of like each skill associated with the ring, like to be friendly with someone, right? That's water. But if you want to give a rise of passion to somebody
It's fire.
or to compel them, yeah, that's fire. And if you want to imply something or to tell them something without giving away too much, that's air.
Or are you appealing to their logic?
Well,
Yeah, that's earth.
yeah,
There's
and the social
so many
skills I think
ways.
are going to be more flexible in that way. But like when you go down to trade skills like survival, you have con, produce, innovate, exchange, or subsist. You're probably going to, for the most part, be using it for subsisting. You're probably not going to try to con somebody with survival. I mean, you might. It may come up. I'm not saying it
Yeah,
won't,
that'd be
I
like
think for
hiding
the
your tracks
most
and stuff
part-
like that.
I could see
for
that,
the
yeah.
most part, it's going to be void that you're going to use with it. That was all my point was, that there are some that you have a
I could see that, yeah.
likely use
Oh,
of
yeah, sure.
wandering over others. Yeah, that was all I was meaning.
But that's probably the biggest thing, and then everything kind of just filters onto that. Advantages will generally give you the ability to re-roll certain types of checks utilizing skills matched with certain elements. Disadvantages will force you to re-roll successes and explosions and take new ones.
But sort of. So there's two types of advantages and two types of disadvantages. That's true for one of the types of
Oh,
advantages
you're right,
and one
yeah.
of the types of disadvantages.
Yeah, I forgot they keep splitting them.
So the advantages, you have the two types are distinctions and passions. Distinctions are something that makes you can immediately be distinguished out of a crowd, like large stature, small stature, that kind of stuff. That's going to let you do the re-rolling. But passions are something that your character really loves, and so when you do those things, you actually remove 3 strife. That
Yeah,
thing that's
generally a
supposed
way
go
to
towards
keep yourself calm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Advantages you have.
So yeah, I completely forgot about that.
adversary. Yeah.
Passions
the disadvantages
give you,
are the
or anxieties give you
adversities and
strife, right?
anxieties.
Isn't that what they do? Do they give you more
Yeah,
strife?
adversities are the opposite of distinctions. They're kind of like they're the yin to the yang, if you will. And then anxieties to passions are the yin and yang.
Yeah.
So anxieties
Oh, I
do
just
something with an
realized there was-
anxiety, then you'll get like strife, but you will get a void for it, which we'll get into how
If
Only
you
if you
outburst.
outburst.
void you can regain void from distinction, and I believe from anxieties as well.
You gain it from anxiety and adversities, but anxiety it's only if you outburst from it. Then you gain the void.
Ah, yeah.
We should probably talk about what an outburst is.
Oh,
It's just gonna
Back to the strife.
This is the really
this
tough
is
one to
something
like
I
defend.
really don't like.
I don't know.
It's
I think this one's a divisive one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
I
the
think this
name
is-
is probably the most hurtful thing about it.
I think the problem, like from what I come down to, is that like on one hand, I don't like the idea of you essentially outbursts. Let's explain to everybody else. Outbursts happen when your mental health, your composure, is capped.
You
When
get
you
out-
finally go over it,
Yep.
you have an outburst.
Yep.
And an outburst doesn't have to be an actual like "fuck you, man."
Right.
It could be something as simple as you just simply shut down, you stop talking with somebody, just like whatever, and then you just walk away from them. Like you disengage. It might be something like, it might be something as quick as a short quip that is an insult to them, that is a breach of etiquette.
It's pretty
It
much
might
breaking
just
your
reveal
armor.
Your
you might
emotions
just
slip.
reveal a weakness, a disadvantage, basically that you have.
Yeah, you might reveal something by accident. That's pretty much what an outburst is, but it's something that essentially is the loss of own, and that's really what it should be. Is what it's reflecting on. The
And
upside to this is that
It also
at
tells you to
least-
make your own.
Yeah, you can also make
Yeah,
your
you
own.
can
as
make
well.
your own.
You can. Let me paraphrase everything from now on. You can definitely make your own. They give you options to make everything in this game.
Advantages,
Everything.
disadvantages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they seem like Fate, where it's like more recommended than like in D&D, because everyone's like, of course you can house roll D&D, but it's not really the
Yeah.
norm.
It's not.
Right.
It's not
Whereas
the
in,
normal.
like Fate, it's a lot more normal to do that.
As part of your 20 questions when you make your character, and I know that 4E and I think 3E even had a 20 question section that was kind of supplemental if you really wanted to explore your character. In this case, they really, 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 really recommend you do it. And because again, like those choices we were talking about earlier, but one of the options, or not options, but questions is, what is your outburst essentially? And so like it kind of works you through how to create, like one of the questions pretty much is create your outburst. Here's some examples.
Yeah.
Create one.
So, the outburst in and of itself, kind of has to happen. That's the only downside, and in a way, it kind of forces your character to act in a manner that might not naturally make sense for the RP. It might seem narratively out of place. those are a lot of the problems that I've seen a lot of people. To quote somebody else, is like, I don't want to be told how to play my character unless the situation calls for this kind of reaction to something.
But
Yeah.
it's the same thing
Which is
as feeling
understandable.
willpower.
Well, which is understandable, because it's very clearly just forcing you to do something, even if it doesn't
It
make
can
sense.
happen
Like,
at any time. That's one of
Yeah.
the things I really don't like about it, because you just accumulate the Strife. Obviously, you can choose not to keep dice with Strife and fail your rolls and stuff. But,
Yeah.
I mean, what if you just roll all Strife? If I'm in the middle of
Okay.
the battle, I can just have an outburst at random. I just like
I could be
players
talking to
having
my
agency
wife.
of how their characters react
Like,
generally.
we might be with your blissful betrothal, and you're having the greatest time of your life, and you actually stub your toe. Well, you're gonna have to make a check to see if you didn't get that strife.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you're shouting things you would never say.
I'm
It's-
But I mean, and I understand that, and I know that.
Yeah, but that might just be like you expose a weakness, like, or something. Like, it's not.
Well, but your outburst is generally very specific. Like, you don't change your outburst. It's
No, you can't.
No, you
don't
can have
Yeah,
whatever.
You can use any of the outbursts
Oh,
at
you
any
can use
time.
any-
You don't have to use the one you chose.
Yeah,
That's just the one that you will probably use the most, but you can use any of the outbursts at any
or you
time.
might just compromise.
Yeah.
Like,
I might compromise with
is
my
an
stub toe.
outburst. Yeah. Well, it says compromise or flee, so maybe
Yeah.
you'll just run away from that piece of furniture.
I think, okay, so even with that in regard, though, I still stand by the fact that, like, it just doesn't always make sense to have you suddenly have an outburst. It just doesn't.
I wrote this
There are
awesome
just
poem.
times.
I guess for me, it's a matter of, like, in real life, there's times when you have outbursts that are totally uncalled for because of something else that's affecting you, that it's just at that moment they did something tiny, and then you had an outburst that really you weren't mad at them or even the situation. It was just this other situation that happened 3 days ago because of X, Y, and Z.
Well,
And
but
I
you
can
don't
see
carry
that's-
strife. But they see that strife doesn't carry like that. It doesn't carry with you from, like, days to days.
It does.
No, I think you lose it.
You lose it.
I thought you only like start to reduce some of it.
You
but
lose it
while
over time.
sleeping-
Yeah, you lose it over time.
After a few days, you'll have gotten rid of all of it.
Right. Few days. But I mean, like,
And
it's
you can
not-
also
it's
have
not
your
like
buddies
something-
give you pats on the back to go, "It's okay, buddy. I'm going to point out that you just had a moment of weakness and horribly offend you, but this helps you mechanically."
I can see what they're trying to. I guess my point is, I can see what they're trying to accomplish with it.
I can
is
see what they're
that-
trying to accomplish with it too, though.
I can, but
my
I think
problem
they
is-
flub what they're going for.
I
in my
just I
opinion.
don't like what they're flooding it, because it may not make sense. Like, you can argue that,
Yeah.
like, yes, it may not make sense in real life, but there's a lot of reasons for why it might come up. But the reason for why your strife comes up with this outburst and this setting might not make any sense for that character, because that is out of character for them to make an outburst related to this type of thing, as opposed because of these actions that happened earlier, as opposed to this action that's happening now that would cause the outburst. Yes, in real life, we're multifaceted. We'll always have moments where we might show a bit of weakness, or we might do something that we look back on and go, oh, that was really silly to do. But we're all going to have different thresholds for what is and what isn't going to do that based on our own individual person. The same would go for these types of characters. It might make sense for them to have this outburst here, to show that kind of sense of flaw and humanity for themselves, because it makes sense for that character. But if it's done in a moment where it doesn't make sense for them, just like it wouldn't make sense for us as our own individuals, that's where the problem arises. And that's where the real issue I think people find is. It doesn't make it bad. I get where they're coming from with the mechanic. But ultimately, when I see it like that, it kind of sucks.
I respect them for trying to do it, but I'm not sure if they did it in the right way. That's kind of how I feel.
But on the flip side, and here's the flip where I'm going to give you now, I do know people who desperately need an outburst for their character.
Yeah, because they
I
always
know-
play him as like perfect and stoic and
right?
like
Yeah,
no
I've seen
weaknesses.
that other one. Is
So
like,
I
people
understand.
will never choose to
Yeah.
take a
Yeah,
disadvantage.
and that's
Or
the
they'll never
goal.
play. Yeah, and that's the other problem.
That's what
is
they're
they'll
trying
never
to
play,
do.
They'll never play their humanity or their flaws. They'll say like, "Oh yeah, I totally took this disadvantage," or "Yeah, my character's totally flawed like this," but they never show it off. And I'm like,
Right.
"Well, here's now where a mechanic is like, you have to."
Man, that's
And on that flip side, I've seen it, and it's really frustrating me because I'm like, your character's supposed to do this, or you say your character's going to do this, and they're like, well, it's not because of this or this. I'm like, but you're contradicting what you said earlier. So on that flip side, I kind of like the fact that it does force you to have to actually show a moment of humanity to yourself in a non-positive light within the society.
And they're trying to highlight that.
Yeah, I think that's what they really want to highlight, which I feel like,
I think they're just reaching too far.
yeah, I almost wish there was more control on when that outburst could happen or when it made more sense. I don't know.
Then people would just choose to never have it happen when it matters, I guess.
Yeah. Like,
Well,
if
I think you
happen
can.
immediately.
Then you gotta have a good GM.
You have to have a GM that'll back you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess
guess.
the other thing too is that just because you roll a strife and that means it's happening in this scene, the way that it reads, it kind of builds it up like there was stuff in this scene that caused that strife, and I can see that interpretation of the dice. But it could just as easily be something like he woke up on the wrong side of the bed and, you know, he's just in a foul mood, but nothing else that really bothered except for this one thing that normally wouldn't bother him, but for some reason today it did. Because we've all had those days.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, like, sometimes we have
I
those
get where you're
immediate
coming from.
outbursts where, yeah, I don't know.
I think they need more options for more discreet. Like the exposed weakness is like it could literally be a physical tell of like, so you could just like rub a bad elbow or something, and that gives away a disadvantage.
Yeah, it gives away like a
trained
loss
eye.
of own.
Like, I need a drink. Like, not even going and getting a
Right,
drink.
yeah,
just saying,
or
"I
like
need a
an
drink."
ill-concerned word is the next bit, like for non.
Yeah.
I think don't get me wrong. I really like this idea. I like what
It
it
could be
is at the end of the
better.
day. Exactly. I like what it is at the end of the day. I just think that like something like this, and this is where I kind of want to end this on because I mean we're gonna go back and forth otherwise on it.
Yeah.
It is very, very, as you can see, what I was talking about, controversial.
Yeah.
It is incredibly opinionated type of thing. You are gonna have people on both sides of this.
Yeah.
And,
You're gonna like it or you're not.
All right, let's give a positive sandwich here. Something, probably my most favorite thing about the new system is the Ninja and Giri mechanics.
Oh, yes.
I like that these are taught in mechanically to your character. So basically, everyone has a duty, which is their giri, which you kind of get glory if you accomplish this. So every character has like a task their lord has given them, and this is their duty that they must complete. Everyone has ninja, or their connection to their humanity. So in a way, this is almost kind of like the driven disadvantage, kind of. It's the whole samurai drama kind of crux. Are you going to choose your giri or your ninja, like the thing that you care about the most in the world?
You have two things that you have to do. Which one are you going to do, your duty or the? I mean, so case in point, of an L5R game that we've been playing. I just to kind of pull it together. I had a character who, he was Shogun, and so he had all these duties, and he needed to chase like Shadowland creatures and stuff like that. But he had this one person who had killed his family, and so he found out where they were located, and he had to make a decision: do I go after this person who killed my family, who I've been searching for the whole
It's a
campaign?
perfect example.
Or do I go after the Shadowlands? And I ended up choosing to go after the Shadowlands, and so in this case, he chose his Giri over his Ninyo.
That's actually a perfect bloody example.
Yep.
Yeah, but for the whole campaign, he was looking for this dude, and he finally was given to it, but he had to choose one or the other.
And I think any good L5R game like gives those characters like you got to have those moments
It's
where
something
they choose.
they've mentioned a lot.
And
But
it's nice
a
to
focus for
and
them.
and it's nice to see it has a mechanical tie kind of.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They've definitely brought it up so far, so they definitely have that same feeling, I think.
That was the part of the
it's
book
a
that
good
put a
one to
smile on
have.
my face.
And to
That
mix
was-
it together in something that I've noticed across the board with this system and what they're trying to accomplish, they very much want to highlight that samurai drama of duty over,
Which-
and I think that's where the
Duty
just
over
kind of
self.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think the Strife thing is also kind of coming into play. I'm not going to dive back into it, but I just want to say that whole idea of do you do what society, what your lord, what your duty is, or do you do what you want to do? Do you want to have, go after this person? Do you want to have that momentarily moment, or do you just be stoic? But it's not just those 2 points. There's other points where they do it in the system, and I really, really like that because they really hit the quintessential points of being a samurai drama, or at least they try to. They try to reach out and hit those points.
Yeah, I've liked what I've read pretty much. I mean, it doesn't take much. Like, there wasn't going to be much to where like it's pretty easy to get me to play in this setting. Like, as long as the lore's there, I'll pretty much deal with any mechanics probably. So yeah.
I agree. Magical samurai. I probably
yeah. I do honestly like that they did bring to the forefront of Nino and Giri, because this kind of went back to what I was talking about when we first talked about something that you don't like in L5R, and I made mention of the whole Shoryudo and Bushido. That was what I was. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Like the choice between like falling into what Bushido expects of you and being a human is what makes Bushido in itself something to aspire for, an impossibility, but something that is supposed to be like the best of yourself, because you're always self-sacrifice, you're always doing what's expected, you're always being courageous when you need to be, and that's what these differences are.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. But that's obviously not true, because a samurai is a person and a person is flawed, and this is a perfect example. This is a perfect mechanic to show that humongous contrast between what you are as a human and what is expected of you, not only by your lord and your duties, but as of Bushido in general.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll be playing it soon.
Yeah, we'll be playing it soon.
Yeah.
I think Mal and Tets are the most like positive on it. Meta and I are the least positive on it. But like I said,
I don't know that I've ever seen a system that I haven't like been positive on.
Tetsuo is like our most positive person, and Mao is always like,
I'll find you some books, buddy. So, and I've already I'm not going to get back into some of the prejudices I talked about last week when we were talking about specialty dice and stuff. If you've listened, you know kind of like where we generally stand on this. So we come in with our like preconceived notions of what the game, and before I can give a complete, honest, solid opinion, we have to play it, and we're gonna play a session of it. So
I definitely want to play this game, give an impression of it. I mean, there's so much more to talk about, but there's just only so much time to talk about it without making it.
That's kind of the crux of the game, and a lot of the stuff people have been talking about on forums and on the Facebook group and all that good stuff. So I mean,
the data isn't all the rules. Like it's not even just that they don't give us all the options.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's the weird thing.
I'm waiting on my Doji and my Matsu, man.
Rules. It's just there needs to be like I want as much character options as possible.
I want more disadvantages. I want more advantages. That is specifically what I'm looking for. More disadds, more advantages.
Yeah.
I love options.
I do too.
Which
So,
goes into my talk.
We didn't even cover stuff like dueling and all that stuff, so
Yeah.
you'll probably find out what it's like.
You mean that bidding
You're
system?
gonna have to listen to monthly modules here in a few weeks to find out what all that stuff's about. It's gonna be great.
I swear, when you run this mod, you need to put at least one duel in there so I can bid my head off.
You ain't gonna be getting it. It'll be something.
Oh,
No, you have to watch.
No duels. I'm gonna make a full duelist, no duels.
I'm gonna do the worst thing a GM could possibly do and make all the PCs watch two duelists duel each other and make it this big important crux scene. You know that cool scene you could have been in? No, you just watch it.
You get to watch it.
That would be awful, wouldn't it?
God.
Oh my god.
That'd be mean.
All right, Mal, what you got for us tonight?
So, a game came out recently called Cuphead. I don't know if you guys have heard about it.
Oh, I've heard about it. I am already downloading it.
What about Smug Mud?
Well, so
Mugman.
It's a very very unique aesthetic. It's a side scroller shooter like Contra or whatever.
The style of the game is awesome.
Yeah, but so it's quite difficult.
Apparently.
So that has sort of brought back up an argument in the gaming community that, like, I know I've experienced a lot in the Dark Souls community, and it's like, also they announced yesterday that Assassin's Creed Origin will also for the first time be getting a difficulty setting.
You can skip boss fights.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
there's a difference between difficulty setting and skipping boss fights.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference.
So they call it like cinematic mode or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess you guys are on the other side of this because I just don't care. Like,
you never care though, Mao. That's literally part of it.
I'm not going to sit there though and tell someone else they have to experience this a certain way.
Well, let me tell you why you're wrong.
Like, I'm not going to be telling someone they're having fun wrong.
Mao, you're having fun wrong.
Your fun is my fun. That's the only fun.
Because like I want to play the Dark Souls and I want to love the Dark Souls game. I've never completed one because some points I just start getting so frustrated where I'm not having fun because I'm just frustrated.
Right. So here's the thing. It's like the game's difficulty is like a design choice. It's like it's meant to build up frustration, but it feels so good when you beat it. But different people have different skill levels. So
No, they
why,
don't. What?
like,
Mal, you got a bone to pick tonight, don't you?
someone could experience those same feelings if it's easier, or like because at this point,
Because
Dark
they're still
Souls games to
struggling.
me is easy. So I would want a harder difficulty.
You know, you could. I could recommend you one actually.
But it's not going to be Soulsborne.
No, it won't be Soulsborne, unfortunately.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
I-
sorry.
Like if it's part of their advertising, like it's part of what makes the game, like they're having no qualms whatsoever saying that this is what the game is. I guess I'm kind of okay with it because I just
Except-
won't play that game.
That game could be the same feeling to a different person at a different difficulty.
I get what you're saying. Like, on one hand,
And why does having that option just ruin it for you?
well, let me tell you why with my essay that I'm about to read off. No, actually, I get where you're coming from, Al. I kind of agree with you.
I agree with you.
In a few ways. I think difficulty. If you're shouting at somebody that you're playing a game and it's dumb that you're playing it on easy, I think one, you have way too much time on your hands, and two,
Yeah, I get a lot.
you need to definitely think about where you're putting your efforts into life, because my God, man. I get like why some people though want to stand by. It's like this game should be experienced like this because that is getting the full experience of the game. And let's just cut to the chase here. From a very logical standpoint, that is an opinion. You cannot factually prove that in any.
They want to feel good about themselves because
I
they
guess
can
so.
beat it and you can't.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, I understand from a sense of reasoning why somebody might say if you really want to get the most out of the game, you really should play at this difficulty, because the game might be designed around that difficulty, or the game might be having.
I guess, but I mean,
the reward and of the effort for putting into the game for what it is might be more better. I was about to say more
people
better.
are just gonna like pick up. Like I've seen people are like, yeah, I picked up Dark Souls. It was pretty easy. Like,
Yeah.
So they're not experiencing the same game either.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's I mean, like again, that comes back
If
to
they
the
had a
opinion.
harder difficulty setting, they could.
Right, and that's totally true, which is why I said like it's definitely opinion. But I can, like I said, again, I can reason and understand why some people might say if you really want the best experience, you should play it at this difficulty.
I get
And
it,
again,
but-
that's also an opinion, though. Just like the original's opinion, this too is an opinion.
yeah.
Well, and I guess I have two aspects coming from the game designer standpoint, because I know we're talking a lot from the player's standpoint. But first off, like in the case of like Dark Souls or other some type of like gothic horror style, even looking at like something that's Cthulhu mythos based, if it's something that is really easy for you to just kind of breeze through, you're not going to get the same horror feeling as a player because, well, I can just beat it, you know. And it's not to say that that's not the case. Like,
Sure, but that's
some
why
people-
having options are good, because then you can
Exactly.
increase the difficulty or lower it.
or decrease it if it's too hard and you're not completing it. But on easy, you're still going to get the feeling.
I think
Still be there, but I think that would be an aspect of the storytelling.
Because,
I
well,
get-
I
I
mean,
get
if someone
the point,
can't
yeah.
get past a boss, then they're just locked out of this game. forever.
Look, I got the solution
Agreed.
for you. They just need to bring cheat codes back. Okay, bring those back.
just give me
Dude.
my 99 lives.
I mean, that is in its own
Yeah,
way. a
but
difficulty.
Yeah.
But man, how awesome was it to like go to the grocery store and buy your video game magazine that had
Yes.
all your cheat
Oh.
codes in the back?
I
And
loved it.
sometimes I would just buy games because the cheat
me-
codes
let-
sounded
let me-
cool. But
Let me
anyways,
tell you
that's
right
another
now,
topic.
Gex was amazing because of that. But yeah, you're right.
I remember some of those.
I mean,
think.
if you're on the PC, you could probably open a console.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But I guess my second point too is how do you scale difficulty?
I mean,
Like,
that
what-
depends. There's a various of techniques.
Yeah.
Right.
The most
well,
often crutch is, I mean, like just increasing and
Just increase their health
decreasing
and damage.
And, yeah.
Make them
Right.
bullet sponges.
Exactly, but sometimes that doesn't make it easier. That just or harder. That just makes it longer.
Sure.
Well, that's a
It's
different. Oh, that's such a different beast though altogether.
But I
Yeah.
think that's partially why sometimes you
That's
don't
just bad
have
designing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
would say
both-
it's
That's
bad
on the
design.
designers.
I like how
Like,
Cuphead does it because the bosses have different mechanics on different.
right, you
Yeah,
have to come up with, like, the designer would have, I mean,
Yeah, no, exactly. But my point is that for some people, HP makes it harder. For others, you need to vary up how it gets. And so my only point is that on the designer standpoint, it's still hard to place that, like, because again, like you're saying, somebody could be playing on extra hard nightmare new game plus ultra death mode and still think it's easy, whereas player B is on easy, and he still can't get past boss 2. And so as a game designer, how do you develop to cover all of those people? I think that should be tried. It definitely should be.
Yeah, I'm not. What?
I was gonna jump in there, and it's like kind of like, I guess, tangent off to the side here a little bit, but it might also go like with the game design. The game designers might actually just have a specific vision in general for the game. Like, they simply state that this is the difficulty that we want the game to be at, because this is what we think this is the way we want the game to be played in a manner of how difficult it should be. And that's fine too. So, like, to kind of go back to what you were like saying a little bit, Tets, like, sometimes they may not want to have to make multiple difficulties and rebalance for those multiple difficulties, because to them, the game is meant to be experienced this way, and the game is meant to be played with this kind of difficulty. Yeah. Well, they could definitely not have time to or whatever. I mean, that's a different beast altogether because of time constraints and crunch time and whatnot. But if the game designers feel that this is how their game should be played, I mean, just as players can decide that they rather play it on easy or harder, the game designers can simply just say, this is just how it's meant to be played, and if you can't beat it, then that's just really you.
I guess games are the only form that like require you to have a certain skill level to, you know, have experienced all of this piece of media, right? Like, you don't have a test to continue on in a movie.
Well, but at the same point, you can, like, if it's all about just getting the story, you can always go to YouTube.
Yeah, I think at that point, if you're just concerned about getting the story, why even bother buying the game?
But at the same time, I see what you're saying. Like for some people, it's not about the story. Sometimes it is the gameplay.
Well, Let's Play usually has like another person that is doing, like, I don't know. I know a lot of Let's Plays become popular for the personality. Are there a lot of ones that...
There are ones out there that are simply silent. I know for a fact. They're actually, they're not called Let's Plays. They're generally called game guides. And what they do is they play through the game. The person says nothing. And they just go through the game. They watch the cutscenes.
Sometimes it does text on the
screen.
I watched one for Demon's Souls.
It's pretty, like, they're pretty interesting. But if you're just watching it for the story, I would actually say you could probably just save for yourself some money. Pick up a game guide for somebody who's playing through it who doesn't say anything, because they are out there. I know they are.
Like, I had to do that for Neo. Like, I will admit it. I did that for Neo to get the rest of the story. I could not beat the Jirogumo, and it was pissing me off.
that takes a while for someone else to produce that content.
No, yeah. No, agreed.
Right.
Like, you can't buy that on release day and have that.
Right. But, I mean, the difference is that...
Can you?
Like a cinematic... like, that's why I like a lot of RPGs now. They have, like, a story mode where, like, it makes the... Like, I mean...
I think...
I paid, like, what? Like, my 40 or 50 or whatever bucks for Divinity, and I've put 80 hours into it. And if I got burnt out, I like the option that I can just go right down to the easiest setting. And
I think...
get the rest of the story.
I think I kind of at the end of the day, though, I think what the difference is that if you are only specifically interested in knowing about the story of a game, then you are going into this game with probably the mindset of, I want to watch a movie. If you're picking up a game, you're picking it up because you like the interaction. You like the ability to cause input and get output from your input, and whatever way you feel is appropriate. If you're talking about from
no one should ever play a visual novel.
I'm not saying that. Like, that's the case. But I say, like, generally, if you're going into the idea,
just watch them. Because those are all story.
I mean, a visual. I think
kind of choose your, but they're still choose your adventure based.
Yeah, they still have input. But again, that's the visual novel is generally kind of in a game category as well. Because I mean, if you're having input on it, you're kind of playing it.
Right.
You're telling
plenty of games like Divinity has tons of options.
But that's my point.
There's no way you could just watch one game guide and get them all.
Well, no, but that's Divinity's in its own different beast. I mean,
it's an RPG.
It's.
I mean, there's plenty of RPGs that even just have like 3 routes that you would have to then watch 3 times or play 3 times.
But the problem is here is that, like, what we're talking about is a sense of difficulty. If you're going in for the only idea of that you want to see the story, so the difficulty is not an issue for you.
Right. Well, maybe they do want some gameplay, though. I mean,
then if you're going within that mindset, you're not going within the mindset of the story. You do want input and output, and that's what I'm saying. If
Right,
you're that's
maybe they
that's
only
why I
want
was saying that-
minimal. This is why I'm
Well,
just saying
that's
all
fine.
games are good.
that's totally fine too. I wasn't saying like there was a better or like a better for or against. I was just saying that if you are simply going in to see a story and you're only going in for that, you don't want anything else,
Sure.
then you'd rather it's better for watch. But if you want some sense of feedback, if you want to make choices, then
Right, and a
definitely.
lot of people do, but people get so offended at the mere notion of like Dark Souls having a difficulty setting.
I guess
mean-
here's my other thing, and I know that this is going to get me a lot of flack before I even say it. There's nothing
Pew, pew,
wrong
pew.
with not having completed a game because of difficulty.
What?
There's
No,
nothing
that's
wrong
impossible.
with the game maker
You go back and complete that game
game
right now.
with a high difficulty and not including an easy mode, and you just don't complete it because you know what? And I know that games are an escape from reality. There's a lot of things that you just never are going to accomplish. Period. I mean,
Right,
that's just life.
But I guess should you be able to spend $60 on a game and then only be able to get 2 hours into like 60 of the hours? Like, I mean, guess should you be owed,
I
to
think
be
it's
able to complete the game?
But that's kind of part of. I mean, that's kind of the gamble of buying games, though. I mean, like if you're buying a brand new game at $60,
Right, but you don't have to like gamble to finish a book.
Yeah, you
No,
do.
but books are 10, or 10.
I know a few
Sometimes
books
you
that
do.
I have not finished.
When you do those read-along Goosebumps books, the choose your own adventure ones, and then you actually die if you get the bad
more
ending.
out of
Right,
those.
but nothing is stopping you. Like,
Yeah,
There's no
that's
skill
difficulty.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
is.
yeah.
I have to turn to like page 63 instead of 49. There's a lot of skill to that.
And I agree that it's that in games it's a skill as opposed to I don't know time or whatever reason that you might not watch a movie or read a book. But who plays video games who doesn't recognize that video games are a skill-based media? I mean that you just know it. And saying that I don't have this skill in my life repertoire, there's nothing wrong with admitting that. I'm not saying that game
no,
designers.
but there's also
cater
nothing
to that.
wrong with wanting to finish a game.
No, there's not. There absolutely isn't. And I'm not saying that game designers should cater in that direction. I am for difficulty settings, both having it really, really easy and really, really hard to cover everybody. But at the same time, I'm also okay with if it's not there and I can't complete the game, we need to be okay with ourselves to say, I just can't do it.
And then
I
if
think
if you get beyond like even just difficulty that the game gives you, you can also put your own rules into the game, like Iron Man challenges.
It's
or
always
speed
easier to make
runs
it
or-
harder. You can't make it easier necessarily.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I think though, like when it really comes back down to it, is it kind of comes back with it really is an opinion type thing, and it really is going to be different because it's all about perception. It's all how you perceive the game to be. Some people perceive that a game should be done some way, and some game designers agree with that, and that's why they make their game with only one difficulty, and it might be balls to the walls hard. And that
fine.
sucks for people who don't want that, but that's fine for them to believe that that's how the game should be experienced and played. Just as you're totally free in your own perception of ways of seeing things that any game should have any range of difficulty, from movie mode to, I swear to God, if I even so much as stub my toe, I immediately die, drop all my items, and have to start over from
Insta-death.
level 1.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But
It's an art form.
it's in that way, yeah, it is kind of an art form. You're going to have different people's opinions and thoughts and perceptions about how a game should be played on not only what difficulty, but if it should have difficulties.
Play the game whatever way you want, man. Just don't do it with 8-year-olds online.
Oh my God.
No, never mind. I'm not.
I want a whole team of 8-year-olds, and I'm going to face off
That
against
just
two
call
odds.
you noob constantly.
But I mean, like, if that's what you enjoy playing, you know what? More power to. Like, I guess my big thing is play what you enjoy, and more power to you.
I think
I
we
guess
all,
what I don't
think
like
we all
is
agree.
people who tell people like
Oh,
they're
people-
bad
yeah.
because they want an easier
Yeah,
mode.
and they have the right to do that too,
And
but you
it's
just
that
ignore.
Yeah,
those people
you're
are
kind of-
being jerks.
Yeah, those are being pretty much just
Yeah.
jerks. If you're telling somebody that you're bad for playing it this way, I think, first off, again, I go back to what I said earlier, you have to focus on better things than trying to tell somebody that the way they're playing the game is wrong.
And you
I mean,
should-
if they're running off a cliff every single time, I mean, mechanically, yeah, they're playing it wrong, but by God, if they want to run off that cliff, who are
If
you to
they're
deny them?
laughing
Well,
their
that's just
heads
emerging
off
gameplay.
and they're enjoying it.
It's emerging gameplay.
Yep. And if you don't
I mean,
like it, don't
but
watch.
But if you're doing that and you have you're just laughing your head off and you're doing it for hours because you personally think it's hilarious.
Well, yeah, then
Off
it's
that
not
cliff
really
till you're-
difficult.
That's how my friends play Grand Theft Auto. So, yep. Hey man, it's whatever you want to do. That's the awesome thing about most games. You can do
and
whatever
I think
you want to do.
ultimately to kind of bring it around is do what you want to do, and game designers should try to make games to allow the whole spectrum to do what they want to do, but at the same time, that tenet also applies to the game designers. Game designers, design the game you want to design.
Yep.
And the people who want to play that game will play that game. And the people who don't, won't.
And you get whatever enjoyment out of designing the game that you get out of it. So
As long as it's my way. As long as you design it my way.
we are people. We have agency.
I was about to say as long as it's with 50-foot-tall robots, because we need more
50-foot-tall.
No, we need more Persona.
I know, but I like going back to it. I do agree with you, Mal. Anybody who's jumping on somebody's
I think we all
case
agree.
yeah, we all agree there.
Yeah. If you don't, your opinion's wrong.
Yep.
On that note. All right, Tets, what you got for us tonight?
Kind of on the. I was trying to figure out.
He's got nothing, folks. Nothing. Podcast over.
Uh-oh.
Podcast over.
Obs eject.
The catty won't
out.
spa.
We throw like our podcast like gang signs and then we're out.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Yakuza signs, because we're L5R people.
Yeah. Our fireman gangs.
What do you got for us, Sam?
So I started. Well, I have been watching it since it's released. Dark Matter on Netflix. I've been watching it on Netflix, but it's on Sci-Fi Channel. It's a sci-fi show that is kind of in the same vein as Firefly and other of those grounded space opera-y feeling shows. I don't really know how to describe it. But it's that sci-fi, a small crew of people on a ship getting into wacky situations and crazier ways of getting out of them. I'm loving the show. I watched season 1 when it dropped. I watched season 2 when it dropped, and I'm about to finish season 3. But unfortunately, when I say that it's very similar to it, I didn't realize I meant it as much as I do, because they've canceled it halfway through the 5 seasons that...
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
I mean, Firefly didn't even get a full 1 season.
It's true. And
You got more than that.
But I guess my thing is, like, the execs signed a contract for 5 seasons. This is going to be a topic of me ranting. I've already started that, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now. The execs signed a contract for 5 seasons, and they wrote a story that was going across 5 seasons. And then here at the end of the 3rd season, they've decided they're not going to continue with it, and they won't even let the designers make a small, like, couple episode ending to put a period on things. They're like, nope, it's done. We're dropping it.
Oh.
And I don't know, like, you know that I
It's
said
not
about,
profitable, I guess.
but the thing is, like, they were making a lot of money.
I mean,
off
no,
of
it was not. Then if they're canceling it, there's no other reason to
They're
cancel it.
canceling it because they aren't able to make as much money as they want to. They were making a lot.
Then yeah,
of
that's
money.
not profitable enough.
Yeah.
No, it's not profitable enough, but it was profitable. They were making anyway.
Well, what was? Do we know the profitable numbers on it?
At them, and I don't know what I did with them, because that's what I'm trying to find right now.
Because I mean, the numbers will tell us. I mean, we don't. We also don't know what goes on in the background, and obviously with the production of these things, and like what deals are made, what shadow deals are brokered as they.
It was made from a Canadian station or a studio.
Oh, well, there you go, right there.
Well, there's the problem. They're always going to be apologizing.
Damn
They
Canucks.
actually had they had almost zero financial input into it, because it was just airing on Sci-Fi. But the Sci-Fi original shows that they put money into, they see as being more profitable, even if they aren't necessarily more profitable, because they put money into it. Essentially, they tried to buy it. They tried to make it a Sci-Fi original just by buying all of the rights, and the studio didn't sell, so they said, okay, we're just not going to show it anymore.
So is it an original show made by the people who created the show, or is it based off of any medium?
No. It was made by the people who are making the show, and it's only airing on Sci-Fi. It's not airing on any other network. Well, it's airing on Netflix, but that's because Sci-Fi has a deal with Netflix, not so much that the studio does.
Looks like they announced it at the start of September.
Did you mention how many seasons there were? I might have missed that.
5?
They're finishing the third season, and they're not doing anything with seasons 4 and 5 that the contract was signed for.
Hey man, that's what happens to good shows.
It
Yeah,
does.
it's
And
just kind of
that's ultimately kind of more where my topic is going, is that there are so many good shows that this seems to happen to, and it makes me so sad.
There's a reason that Sci-Fi isn't HBO or Netflix or
Yeah.
At the end of the day, some businesses are run badly, even TV network stations.
We also have to remember that sometimes like what is considered profitable now might not have been like what is like Firefly, for instance. Firefly actually, if I recall, I'm about to be shot by people here.
At the time, it probably wasn't very popular.
At the time, I remember
TV has gone way down.
Yeah.
Like something that was considered unprofitable before is now well, I guess actually I don't know about profits, but like viewership now.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is that there's a difference between the viewership and the profitability.
Essentially, long story short, it didn't meet the standards at the time it was out, but Firefly exploded afterwards. After it exploded, these people then started learning about it, and it just spread too late. That infectious disease that we call a great show. Do you have those numbers or no?
Still can't find them.
Hold on. Sorry. I saw green lights on the Discord, and I couldn't hear a word of what anybody was speaking.
I was going a little bit robot-y there, so people are probably going to hear that. But anyways, no, I think Beta was just basically talking about like, just stuff now is stuff kind of gets like a cult following, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Okay, sorry, we had technical difficulties. I missed kind of what people were saying.
Meta was just saying that shows get like cult followings basically later on, and become more profitable after the fact.
Yep.
Well, I know that one of the numbers that I do remember from the article that I was reading, most shows from season to season, they have about 15 to 25% viewership drop. And then it picks up towards the end of the season. That's just from season end to season start. Dark Matter has consistently had about 10 to 12% drop, so it's better than what the other ones have had. Just as one particular case in point, but I agree that like there's definitely a matter of some shows just gone in at the beginning and then less so later on, and it makes sense to have them kind of phase out. It's just, I don't know. I feel like every single time I really get into a show, it's always the ones that get phased out.
Yeah.
Like, without fail, it feels like.
Sometimes networks invest way too much money on the front end, which is kind of like what happened with Rome, which I was talking about before we cut out. Probably my favorite show of all time was going to have, I think, 3 seasons, but it kind of like they ended the second season early because they invested. It was really early HBO getting into TV. They were like, we spent a whole lot of money on this. Now Game of Thrones obviously spends probably like 20 times as much money as Rome ever did. So, I mean, it's just kind of like the state.
I would think so.
All like your big budget stuff now is on AMC, HBO, Showtime, Stars, and Netflix. Obviously, that's like your big budget stuff, and they have a lot more money to throw at this stuff. Networks like Sci-Fi, and I don't even know any other networks that make kind of like original content kind of like that.
Netflix
don't have as much
content.
money. Yeah, I said Netflix. They're one of the big ones.
I know. I'm making a joke.
Oh, you.
But I mean, we have how many seasons of the Kardashians or whatever you call those people?
That's because reality
That's
TV
different.
makes bank.
Yeah,
I know.
I don't
has-
understand why that makes bank.
because it has such low cost.
And it lets people just zone out and watch something worse than their life.
Absolutely. I actually agree with those 100%. I honestly think reality TV shows are
There's little risk and lots of reward. We talked about that in one of my classes.
Yeah, I know. It's just, it makes me sad because if you want to watch a life that's worse than yours, watch a sci-fi show where people get sucked into black holes and having problems with aliens and the universe is going to end. That's a worse life
I mean,
than
I've
yours.
watched the Kardashians
that's
if they
insane.
fought aliens and like stuff like that.
I'm sorry,
might,
what?
I might get interested in keeping up with the Kardashians.
The Kardashians
if I'm keeping up
suddenly
with
had
them
an
on Alpha
alien
Centauri
invasion,
5.
I would watch the shit out of that.
I will watch it if
Apparently-
we launch them off and send them towards the sun to... Wait, what?
Apparently, this it had higher viewership than other sci-fi things, but the not owning it means they sink more money into the show, but don't get to monetize it as
They
or
don't
so
get
much
all the
because they
profits,
don't
basically.
own it. Yeah. So they cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Which
always makes
sucks.
me sad. Yeah, because
I don't even watch shows that are in their first season anymore, just because I want at least 2 seasons out of a show.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. Ever since Firefly, I was just like, I can't watch a series that's going to die after the first season.
funny that you bring that up, because that was how in my normal thought process. And then I thought that Dark Matter was a Netflix original. I was like, Netflix has a good thing. I will take this chance. And then I found
Which
out
actually
that
isn't
it
true
actually
anymore,
belonged
by
to
the way.
Sci-Fi.
They've started
No, it's not. But at the
canceling
time when I started,
this year. Yeah, this year they've started like being a lot heavier on their canceling.
yeah.
Hey man, that's why you watch episodic stuff. You don't have to worry about it, right?
Monster of the Week.
Black Mirror, super good. What's it called? Was kind of like that for a while. Supernatural. That was like the good parts.
Oh,
of
yeah.
Supernatural.
A lot of shows will start out episodic before getting into their arcs. There was a show.
That was probably
just
one of the
remembered
better,
a
more
reason
successful
why-
shows.
I mean, it's still going on.
That was on a well. I always think of it in the past tense because I only remember the good parts. But
It's the story.
that's on like it's like on a small. Kind of network
Supernatural. I
television.
think season 13 is the current one.
Yeah, and it's also the same
and they're
station
getting a
that does.
spinoff.
Yeah, they also do all the DC shows too, don't they? The same. Is it CW?
Yeah,
CW.
CW. Yeah.
Yeah. CW. The what they call it, Arrowverse or whatever.
Yeah, and the Flash and Supergirl and all that stuff. But
Which are also great shows that I watch on Netflix and not on the TV station.
I like the Marvel shows. I don't like the DC ones, but come at me, DC fanboys. No,
If it makes you feel any better, Obs, I was of the same mindset until I started watching Arrow. I still think that the Marvel stuff does a better job, especially the Netflix original Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
well,
But they're
Smallville
still
is also.
enjoyable.
Did you watch season 3 of The Arrow?
That's where we're at, right? No, we just finished season 3, yeah.
Smallville is my favorite
It
superhero
gets
show.
pretty
though,
bad.
so- And that's a
It
DC show.
becomes the what's her? I can't even remember her name now.
I can't even enjoy the series. Like, I can't enjoy either. I'll just say right now, DC and Marvel, like the side shows, I just find no enjoyment in them. There's just lacking, I guess, this spark or that flame that I find in the movies, like specifically the Marvel movies.
I like Daredevil. It's great.
Oh,
I think Punisher is going to be good too, actually.
I think I think usually Daredevil's considered the best of the Netflix ones.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
watched any of Luke Cage or.
Inhumans
Iron
looks like
Fist.
it's gonna suck.
It got canceled
Oh, good.
before it even started. Because they did the IMAX screenings and everyone was like,
Inhumans
"This is
fan,
awful."
Like that thing looked bad. Like
It
as
looks like
someone like who is pretty easygoing with like what he likes, like it looked bad.
Well, it looks like a soap opera. It's
that's
very
how
low
you know when
production.
something is horrible is when Mao's like, no, it's bad.
Exactly. So,
But The Runaways, another of my favorites, is supposed to actually be pretty decent.
so that should have got sacrificed instead of Dark Matter, right? That's
Agreed.
Agreed.
it should die for the sins of the
I'm
show
gonna
that
just
you
I'm gonna
like.
just go off the Mao meter.
I never
for good or
actually
bad.
watched Dark Matter. I don't know something. I just never watched it.
Yep. Are you guys familiar with the premise of the show, at least? I probably
Yeah.
should explain
No.
that.
No.
You
Never heard
have
of it.
6 people who wake up on a spaceship coming out of stasis pods with no memories of their lives before and are like, who are y'all? Who am I? What's going on? And they end up naming each other based off of the order in which they woke from the pod. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's like what they call each other. And they slowly start to discover their pasts and how everything is kind of interconnecting. And things start spinning out of control, and there's a giant like corporate war that gets started up, and it's just pretty much it's one of those things where they find out that they were apparently instrumental or at least fairly close to the center of chaos, and something happened in stasis. They apparently lost all their memories, and so they're trying to recover things. That's kind of mostly season 1. Season 2 and 3 start exploring other avenues after that kind of happens and like the after effects of that, but that's kind of the synopsis of season 1.
Do they find Dark Matter?
Not yet. I don't think. I think
just
that
the name
might
of
have
the
been
show.
Season 5. I think that was Season 5's script. No, I'm kidding.
I find is like they never actually find dark matter.
They're all Solarians, right?
Well,
That Season 3 has started going a lot into the wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Oh no!
And Season 4, I think, was supposed to start dealing with extraterrestrial, and like other worldly entities and stuff like that.
I'm telling you, whenever a show starts to delve into time, it just starts to lose
Yeah.
quality.
yeah, it's a very hard thing to do.
I think they do it well though. Like I don't know. They kind of fold it together with I don't know how much to like describe without spoiling things.
Yeah, one of
There's
my
a piece
Probably
of
stay away from
technology-
spoilers.
yeah.
Essentially, they get a piece of technology that becomes integral to the whole plot, and it makes the aspects of the time travel work well, in my opinion. It's
The
not
olden
just
MacGuffin.
Yeah. Well,
feel
there's
very
I mean,
MacGuffin-y. Like it's not so much MacGuffin as much as it's part of the plot, if that makes sense.
MacGuffins can be part of the plot.
Yeah.
They
MacGuffins
usually
aren't
are,
bad.
aren't they?
It's just a trope.
Yeah.
I know, but MacGuffins sometimes kind of have like, it's just a MacGuffin. There's
One day we're gonna do a
sometimes
topic
a
on
little bit of
TV
negatives.
tropes. Today is not that day.
Today's not that day.
It'll be 10 hours long. That episode.
Yeah, it would be.
I was gonna say it'd be
God.
just like going on the website and you come out 10 years later.
My God, where have I been?
Where was I?
The things I've seen, the Xanatos gambits I've overcome.
You
What
don't
year
know
is
any-
it?
You don't know the darkness I've seen.
Oh my gosh. So yeah,
Does
no,
quoting tropes count?
yeah. I'm with you, man. I feel you.
I guess. There is the chance that you'll get more, just not
Yeah.
from Sci-Fi, probably.
Maybe
Yeah,
Netflix
they-
will pick it up.
Yeah.
They are right now petitioning a lot of different channels to pick it up. Netflix is one of the big
I
ones.
mean,
I know
Young
there's
Justice
actual
is coming back, so
right.
anything's
Yeah.
possible.
And it's if you're familiar with the show Lost Girl, it's done by the same
Yeah.
studio,
Oh, okay.
and there's a lot of the same actors and actresses in that show that's in Dark Matter.
Canadian productions like to use a lot of the same actors. I found.
A lot of places, a lot of things are shot in Canada, actually.
It's
Like
cheaper.
I think all the CW stuff is.
Yeah, it is.
Supernatural is.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you see that in America too. I mean, like there's how many voice actors that get to do like this, in every single thing. So I mean, it's not just a Canadian thing. I don't think.
Looking at you, Matt Mercer.
No, it is. It's totally Canadian.
Nolan North.
Matt Mercer is Canadian too. He's just not letting you know. Even though
just not letting you know.
he's
Grew
from
up in
Florida.
Florida.
Everything is actually
The complete
Canadian.
opposite. But anyways. All right, let's get on to my topic. More
I
kind
don't
of
even remember what it was.
what's more kind of free-formy. Well, you're not going to go first in this then. More kind of free-formy discussion stuff, because we've been doing that pretty well today. So let's keep that train rolling. Last 2 weeks, you've heard me rant and ramble and talk about games I'm super excited for in 2018. But you know what? We still got 2 months left in this wonderful, wonderful year. So I want to know what game
3
you are the
months.
most excited. Shut up, Mal. 10 plus 10 plus
gotta
2
get
is
out.
12. My math. I'm
He's
blown
giving you an
away.
extra month off.
No extra month. What's the game you're most looking forward to for the rest of the year? for
Fire
2017?
Emblem Warriors.
All right, Meta. What about it? You
That
got
is
to convince Mal to get this because I pre-ordered it
Yeah.
yesterday.
Okay, so like what
Tell 'em-
actually convinced me to get Fire Emblem Warriors was that I picked up with Lily, my fiance. I went up and I picked up Hyrule Warriors a long while ago. We picked it up because it looked good. We thought it was like I haven't played a Warriors game in a while. Lily likes Nintendo stuff, especially Legend of Zelda, and I was like, and I like Warriors stuff. I think I like the hack and slash and the general repetitiveness of it all.
It's
But,
a nice chill game.
It was a nice chill game, so we got it because it had split screen. We're like, well, fuck yeah, it's a great game we can play together. I was blown away by how they dealt with Hyrule Warriors. The gameplay is absolutely fun. The mechanics to it allow some variety in mixing things up. The fact that you have different weapons with completely different movesets that are actually very fantasy and imaginative because they can do very crazy things like, shoot flames from the fire scepter, or you can just use the regular, sword and shield for Link, the Master Sword and whatnot. to as crazy things as like you can use a giant fairy as your weapon, which actually she floats around with Link in a bottle and uses him as a weapon, but that's besides the point. It was just so much a variety to how the game is played and the characters and how they act and how they work. It was really wonderful. And then the DLC was phenomenal. They had the roster was more than doubled by the end of the DLC for this game, which by the way went on for I think more than a year's plus time.
I don't know.
They had a number.
They've only announced 3 DLC so far for Fire Emblem.
There you go. So they had there was you could do the maps, which was essentially this mode where you went on to like the original Legend of Zelda map for the first game that came out in the Nintendo Entertainment System, and you went on that map.
Freaking cool.
It was so cool. You go across the map. Essentially what happens on this map is you move across it and you'll come into some random setup styled encounter that'll have different objectives, different minions, different enemies that you face off against, and generally on a clock. And they'll get more difficult as time goes on or you go delving deeper into the map. This is how you unlocked like your final grade of certain weapons. You could pick up items that would unlock like secrets that you could utilize to get better stuff. You could get more heart containers this way. You even unlocked certain characters that were in the game by doing this. So there was a lot of reason to go through this map. It was incredibly fun. It's incredibly fun, which is also split screen, so you can do it with your buddy, and it actually makes some of them easier because you can do it with your buddy.
But how's this going to translate to Fire Emblem?
Yeah, that's where it comes from, is that really I have high hopes because they dealt so well with Hyrule Warriors. I'm kind of hoping that it will be the same thing for...
It's the same team, right? I mean,
I
know
yes.
it's the same developer and stuff, but...
Generally, I think so.
Is there only one team that develops the Muso games? I actually don't know. I'm not super learned on them.
I honestly, I don't know, but I think there's 2 now. I think they have enough people where they've got 2.
It would make sense for it to be the same one since this is a Nintendo property.
I mean, there's really no reason or logic to it beyond that. They did really well with the first game that they did like this. So I'm assuming that they can do really well. And there's no reason to that they can't do well because Fire Emblem has a humongous history, an enormous roster of characters to pull in from.
Which they have not chosen from.
Yes, which they have not chosen from, which is the biggest
even
the a lot of people from.
First 3 DLC are just more from the same game the roster already contains.
Yeah, which they
might not add anymore.
I don't know if they plan on hoping that this will lead into a sequel. That said, the 2 games that they have chosen from are the de facto most popular games. So I can understand why they do that. But I totally understand, like, you can't play Hector, which sucks, because I know a lot of people love Hector. Roy,
they made Celica a copy of Marth's moves.
Which makes me sad.
Roy isn't there.
It's
Elderwood.
just... What is it? It's the Shadow Dragon, which is a remake of the first one.
Yep.
And then Fates and Awakening and Lyn and Celica.
As long as Lyn's in the game, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, that's why Meta's excited.
Yeah. I don't know. I might pick it up later when they do like a complete pack or something, if they do something like that. I don't know. Well, maybe if like the roster's expanded and there's more not sword users in it.
I like that it's got it's doing the weapon triangle. It's got some of like the map thing where you go into and look at the map and it looks like a Fire Emblem map.
Yes, that's actually
It's got lots of little cool touches aesthetically. But I also agree with Mal. There's way too many sword characters.
They just needed to be way too good for me to probably get it on release.
Yeah.
I think what will definitely help this game, though, if I were to give criticism to it, is I think that hands down expanding the roster to other well-liked characters beyond the first 2 games, definitely make sure variety is there for characters, and that when you're playing as them, you really feel like you're playing that character. I just know for a fact, from what I've seen at least, and I shouldn't say it's for a fact, but from what I've seen, people are less so interested in the games themselves and more the characters of those games. You'll have a lot of people who like characters from a game as opposed to I really liked these games in general.
Tingle for Smash 5.
I mean, that's just an opinion from what I've seen, but I would like to see more characters come out. And definitely make sure that they are balanced in the weapon ranges. I don't want to see tons of sword characters. I don't want to see tons of spears or axes. I want to see balance. Like I really want to be like, oh, I like this character because he has this, but I like this character because they're my favorite axe character. I like this character because they have the coolest spear, etc.
Yep.
One of the fun things about a lot of the other more mainstream Warriors games.
Yeah.
What's your game, Tets?
Destiny 2.
It's not. It's already out though. It's already out. It's already out. You gotta get into something else.
I don't have any other.
There's a game coming up in a few weeks. I know you were talking about that you wanted to play when we did our E3 episode.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
But
it's not Destiny 2. That's
yeah,
the problem.
like, it's a game that I want to play, but like it's not. Have to play. It's not like a game that I need to pick up like on release day. Like
you can also say you're not excited for anything. It's a fine answer.
What? You can't say that.
Be stuck in the past constantly. Gaze upon your failures.
I always
You might be in
stuck
despair.
the past, and it's phenomenal because hindsight is so much easier.
Nostalgia, man. Those rosy tinted
I can wait
goggles.
till everybody spends $60 and says they hate this game because of these reasons, and go, "Cool, I don't have to play that game." Or watch the story on YouTube.
What about you, Mel?
I've been looking this whole time.
It's obviously it's
that's
Pokemon
clearly a
Ultra Sun and
delaying
Moon,
tactic.
It's probably Xenoblade, I guess, 2 or whatever. Is the only I think game I'm probably gonna buy by the end of the year.
Well, mine's Sonic Forces, so I mean, no, it's not Sonic Forces. I agree with you. Mine is Xenoblade 2.
Oh yeah. It's. I mean, I am pretty interested in it.
Yeah.
It looks cool. There's like nothing else. Maybe Pokemon. They finally revealed that the more is actually going on in these.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's still enough for me.
Right. That's. I still need to know a little bit more. But yeah, Xenoblade looks cool. It'll be my second game for my Switch.
Combat looks fun. It's more anime, which I like. It obviously appeals to me.
I mean,
you know that.
Yeah.
It appeals to the show.
You're so wrong.
I'm really just waiting for January.
Yeah, January's gonna have a lot of good stuff. There's actually a lot of stuff coming out
Only
this month.
one thing that matters.
I'm going to play, like Bubsy, the Woolly Strike Back. I'm not playing the new Bubsy game. It's a bad memory from my childhood. Now I'm getting Fire Emblem Warriors, so I'm with Meta. That'll be the next game I pick up and play. After that, Mario Odyssey comes out a week after that. I'm pretty excited about that. That's my close second. We got South Park is going to come out, but I can wait and play that. To be honest with you,
I actually am also excited for Dissidia NT.
that comes out in January, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe it comes out. Maybe
it does
I
not
don't
qualify.
remember.
Yeah, it doesn't qualify. I'm
It's
excited
the only
for
other
it
game
too,
excited
Meta.
for it.
I
I'm
freaking
excited
love
for
the
it.
old Dissidia games too.
I am ready for Monster Hunter World.
Oh,
Yes!
January!
We all are.
Yes!
We're all going to be playing it.
I am
Um,
excited for that game, actually.
Yeah, we're gonna
Which is
have to-
surprising because you were like,
We're gonna-
I generally I
Then
don't
I saw
like
the
it.
tweet from your SO, like, I can't wait to make Meta play this.
I was like, well, I was watching I'm sorry to do this to you, Obs, but I was
That's fine.
watching a video of it, and I was like, gosh damn it, this actually looks really good.
if I only think we have 2 months left, I guess we can give an extra month on top too.
Need 3 months?
Also, yeah. 'cause-
Exactly, that's the joke.
Yeah.
Last week, does it count? Because I do
What?
want to pick up Gundam Versus.
Oh, sure.
No, I'm excited for that too because that's probably we're gonna have to like record that and put up a let's play
Yeah.
or something on our YouTube. But just because we all haven't got to play a game with each other since For Honor, which
Yeah.
was
So,
basically
if you
a year
do
before
get-
that.
If you do ever pick up Divinity 2 obs, let me know so we can co-op it.
I will eventually for sure.
Speaking of, I want to give an update on For Honor. They are moving towards dedicated servers. When that
Yeah, that was
happened,
announced a little while ago.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
a while ago.
I still think they haven't done it yet though, have they?
They haven't done it yet. They're releasing patch 4.1 point something or whatever. But they are pushing towards it. I definitely think we should jump back into there once it comes out.
Yeah. I'd love to play it again.
Yeah.
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. I kind of touched on this earlier.
Maybe.
I might get them eventually, maybe.
You gotta get that cute new
I hadn't even
Ultra
seen
Beast
those.
adhesive that the Twitters have gone all a Twitter.
the poison one. Yeah, I like the poison one. I do not like the clown virus, as I called it in Discord earlier.
I kind of like the
ghost
wall
fire.
too. I don't know why.
It's just goofy.
It's a horrible typing.
Yeah, rock steel.
Yeah.
No, I most want Dusk, the Dusk mode Lycanroc, because Lycanroc is my top 3 new Pokemon in the gen. Probably him, Litten, and Topnol are my 3 favorites. So, but anyways, yeah, it's weird. There's a lot of stuff coming out this month that I want to play.
Yeah.
There's only Sonic Forces the month after that. No. November's going to be dead.
Persona on?
Yeah, I want to play that Persona Sonic. So that'll probably be when I come back to Fire Emblem Warriors, and I might play South Park during that month. And then the 1st of December is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which, like Mal said, he was probably the only game left he was going to play this year, but I'm super excited for that. That's probably my most exciting game for the rest of the year. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is great. Meta needs to play it on stream.
I will at some point.
Like
we'll
he
get
does
to
with
it.
Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just looks like a lot of fun, and it's nice to see a big JRPG title coming out on the Switch. Gives me hope. Makes me all warm and fuzzy inside. So yeah, not much left in the year, but we're still getting some big stuff. As you always do at the end of the year, you got to get your big stuff in before holiday
there's
season.
always the holiday season.
Yep. Too bad that Dragon Warrior's not here right now. Wah, wah.
I think we just know that's sometime next year.
That's definitely in my top 3 for next year.
I've got Monster Hunter World to keep me busy for a long time, and then the Studio Ghibli the game also in January.
This year has been such a good year for games. Next year looks really good too. I don't know if it's going to top it or not, but it's going to be close. It's going to be close. I think it's going to have good competition because there could still be stuff that comes out at the end of the year that gets announced at E3 and comes out like a few months later.
Cyberpunk is supposed to come out, but probably won't.
We'll get the Spider-Man game. We're going to get some good stuff. So
yeah, cool.
Gaming's looking good. All right, it's been episode 27 of Podcast 5 Rings, your source for enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast 5 Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud. Now, talk by topic day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Fridays. Check us out on Twitter, Podcast5R, Facebook, P5R Podcast. Go to Metastream, where you can rag on him about beating his Strife to win his duels, and watch them play Final Fantasy Tactics.
Which we are going to finish up this Saturday, actually. It will be the last run. We'll be completing the game.
You don't want to watch it if you haven't played it. The ending's good.
Well, I might show her some of the secret stuff that's within Final Fantasy Tactics. We might move on to something else. We're not sure yet.
Yep. So that and all the good FF14. Keep going.
And soon, our monthly module.
Yep, and soon. Soon you will get to experience the horror of FFG L5R. And then we all just end up having a good old fun time, probably,
right?
Or something
We're
like that.
We're probably all going to be stupid anyway
right.
at the end of the day.
Yep, so check that out. I'm going to be sure to get that stuff up ASAP after we record it. And check us out next week, where we will have... I don't even know what's happening next week for us to rant about for an hour. So...
or more.
or more. Well, no, we'll have played... No, we won't have played. So in 2 weeks, you'll get to hear us completely our thoughts on L5R RPG. So, all right. Until next week, we will see you guys later.
See
you guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.